Well, it took long enough, but Kentucky Derby weekend is finally upon us. But that means it kicks off with the Kentucky Oaks on Friday, September 4th. And you know the drill. The best way to play the Kentucky Oaks, the Kentucky Derby, and just about anything, anywhere you can imagine is through NYRA Head on over to NYRABets.com if you're not a member. We will match up to $200 of your initial deposit, and we will also add a free $25 play for all new members. Use the promo code DERBY25, and as a special promotion for this Kentucky Oaks, if you bet at least $100 at each track, that's Churchill Downs and Saratoga, through the app only on Friday, Kentucky Oaks Day, you'll receive a free $25 bonus. The Kentucky Oaks, it's the matchup people have been waiting for. And I'm going to tell you, I think in some ways there is more enthusiasm for the Kentucky Oaks as far as a matchup where the Derby has a huge favorite. You've got two horses at relatively similar odds, Gamine and Swiss Skydiver, two tremendous three-year-old fillies, along with Speech as well, who could be a dangerous player. And we'll take a look at all of the horses in this Kentucky Oaks, starting with Gamine. There's a narrative out there that Gamine isn't going to get the 9 furlongs. Okay, fine. Her worst race was a mile, not her worst race, but in her last three, I'd say her slowest race and her closest career finish was a mile and a 16th around 2 turns at Oaklawn when she beat Speech, finished ahead of Speech. She was disqualified. But her last two races have been nothing short of brilliant. Now, to be fair to her naysayers, well, one was at a mile around 1 turn, one was at 7 furlongs around 1 turn. The naysayers say, well, that's nothing like the 2 turns of the mile and 8 Kentucky Oaks. Okay, that's not totally unfair. I just happen to not agree with that narrative. I think that Gamine is a brilliant, brilliant filly, and I don't see any reason that she's supposed to struggle with the distance. I think that Swiss Skydiver has never had to deal with both the speed and the talent of Gamine, and for me, Gamine should be the favorite in here. She's a very deserving favorite, and she is way the horse to beat. But the merits of her chief rival, Swiss Skydiver, are pretty substantial. I mean, she has had an incredible run for Ken McPeak. And as soon as they started being aggressive with her and having her be forwardly placed, she has turned into an absolute monster. The only effort in her last 5 that didn't produce a victory was when they tried the boys in the bluegrass, and she lost to horse Art Collector, who, had he not got injured earlier this week, would likely have been the second choice to Tis the Law, which is no mean feat. She ran sensationally, winning the 1 1/4 Alabama, and it's not just rare for a horse to be cutting back in distance to the Kentucky Oaks, but given the number of years Kentucky Oaks has been around, I'm willing to bet it's never happened before. Well, she's going from 1 1/4 to 1 1/8. So she has answered the question that Gamine has not answered. She can get the distance. She's also coming back just 20 days after running in the Alabama, and she has had a fairly heavy workload, a much heavier workload than Gamine has had. And I wonder, and I think a lot of people fairly wonder, if at some point that's going to take a toll. I think she's got to deal with Gamine. I believe she's going to struggle dealing with Gamine, and I think that may help set things up for another horse to get a piece of this pie, and that's the number 4, Speech. Speech is winning the Ashland last time, where she absolutely dusted Venetian Harbor, the same horse that Gamine dusted in a prior race, and actually the same horse that Swiss Skydiver beat when she won the Fantasy at Oaklawn. This was a very, very big performance for trainer Michael McCarthy's charge. She was sensational. Now, she couldn't beat Gamine when they met at Oaklawn, but she came a neck short, so she's the one horse that came close to finishing ahead of Gamine. And we'll talk about a horse that beat her earlier, but this is not the Speech that we're dealing with now. This is a very, very talented filly. She had no problems with 2 turns in the Ashland. I don't see why she'd have a problem with a 1 1/8 in this race. And I think that Speech is poised to maybe not pick up both horses, but I think she's a horse that could split the 2 in the exacta. Now, for the people who feel that Swiss Skydiver is going to get the best of Gamine, maybe you want to have Speech second. For me, a person thinks Gamine is going to get the best of Swiss Skydiver. I am going to cement Speech in for second, a big 5-4 exacta with a slight reverse. But let's look at some of the other players, and we'll start with the number 3 horse in here, and that's Donna Veloce. Here's Donna Veloce easily running down Speech to win the Santa Isabel back on March 8th. I get it. She's good. In her second career start, she fell a neck short from winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. While that may not have been the fastest race, it was her second career start and coming off of a win at 6.5 furlongs. She is very, very good. But the other fillies that she's running against here have had 6 months of races, an opportunity to develop. And while Donna Veloce has undoubtedly developed during that time period, she has not had the racing experience the aforementioned 3 horses have had, and that probably is going to take a toll. While I think Donna Veloce is a very good horse, and maybe with more races, she would have run well enough to belong with this group. I have a tough time believing that she can tackle the 3 horses we've been talking about, and perhaps some others, coming off this long layoff. But don't mistake Donna Veloce as being untalented. She is very, very good. Can she take the needed step forward and run competitively against this crew of a 6-month layoff? It is quite a heady ask. Let's take a look at another horse, She Dares the Devil, who's improving for trainer Brad Cox. And this is her burying a field in the Indiana Oaks. Now, don't mistake the Indiana Oaks for the Kentucky Oaks. I don't think any of you are going to do it. And she is a horse that faced Swiss Diver a few races back in the Fantasy, and like so many, she lost by 13-plus lengths. She's better than that, but I don't think she's good enough to be a contender in here. But it does show you how deep this Kentucky Oaks is, that a horse like She Dares the Devil, coming off of 2 open-length victories with decent buyer figures, and even a horse like the number 8, Hopeful Growth, who's coming off a 90 buyer performance and easy win the Monmouth Oaks. These horses are big prices and considered likely also rans, because this particular Kentucky Oaks is an extremely difficult race. Cannot wait to see the matchup. You could argue that the Gamine Swiss Skydiver with Speech matchup is maybe as exciting a 3-year-old race as we have seen all year. I like the number 5 Gamine, as I mentioned before, over the number 4 Speech, over the 1 Swiss Skydiver, with the 7 She Dares the Devil in 4th. I'm going to try to cement that 5-4 exact, the Kentucky Oaks. And the way you want to play it through NYRA Head on over to NYRABets.com. If you're not a member, we will match up to a $200 deposit. So up to the first $200 of your initial deposit, we'll match that. We'll also add a $25 free play. Use the promo code Derby25. Sign up for NYRA Bets and enjoy the many great things NYRA Bets has to offer, including through the app, and the app only, if you bet $100 at both Churchill Downs and Saratoga, 100 or more, on this Friday, Kentucky Oaks Day, you'll earn a $25 bonus. A lot of good stuff happening. The Kentucky Oaks coming up this Friday, September 4th.